Jennifer, our daughter, went to Haiti on a medical mission trip a few weeks ago, and I asked her to come and share some with us concerning that. And so she's going to take a little bit of time this morning and let us know a little bit about what's going on down there. This is a mission outreach that the church supports, so I think it's really good for us to have first-hand information about what's really happening there. And I think it'll be something that we'll all be blessed by. Hopefully the technology will all work. And also, there are some pictures up here. She brought just a few. You're going to see some stuff, slides and stuff here in a minute. But there's some pictures up here, and if you want to grab one of those, you can have them, refrigerator pictures or whatever. So if some of you are interested in those, there's 3 different ones here. So, let me give those guys a chance to get undone here. Let me say I do appreciate her coming to do this, and I do appreciate all the involvement that everybody made in allowing us to be a part of her going. I think most of you know that in addition to our regular giving, we put together a suitcase. It was a huge suitcase full of soap and lotion and shampoo. They don't shave yet, do they? Shampoo and I think it cost $150 to get it there. It was so heavy. It was like 100 pounds and 103 pounds. And they fudged to even let it get on the plane. And you had 4 of them like that, right? Anyway, that was good. And so she's going to come now and share with us. And then after that, I'll be sharing some other things with you, and then we'll get into our message today. Yes. I want to thank Kevin.
Am I in front of the TV if I stand here?
I want to thank Kevin for helping her put the technology together on this. Okay.
So I just thought I would take it from the standpoint of what you could pray for as far as the orphanage and the kids. And so you can. The whole reason that this trip was in place was because of this little boy. So I don't know if you guys remember that my husband went a summer ago or like 18 months ago, just to help teach English to the kids and just spend some time with the kids. And at that time we had collected swimsuits for the kids. And so Brett, just being a man and not being super aware of the emotions going on with the kids, he was like, all right, let's take pictures of everybody in their swimsuits. Well, Eddie has this huge umbilical hernia. You can kind of just barely see him covering it up there. My husband put the slideshow together, and he did not want me to put the picture of his belly in there, but I do have a picture of it if anybody wants to look at it. Just keep touching the screen so it stays on. But he thought it was too graphic. I don't think it's that graphic. But anyway, you can see Eddie was just really embarrassed and really upset that he had to have this picture taken. And so there was a locum pediatric surgeon here that I talked to, and basically, long story short, we ended up putting something together with the hospital there that I had worked with, and this surgeon went with me and did surgery for Eddie. And so you can put it to the next screen. So this is Dr. Powell, and he's not a Christian, but he's an incredible man, and wouldn't even take thank you hardly. He's just a great man. He ended up spending a week in that hospital and then a week in northern Haiti. Okay. So this was Eddie after surgery with Dr. Powell, and then you click to the next one. And then this is Eddie after surgery. And he's just a really sweet little boy. I got to spend a lot of time with him in Port-au-Prince, and it was just a really good time. And so then after we were in Port-au-Prince for the surgery, we went to the orphanage. So I put this picture in here because every time I go, I'm like, all right, this is my last trip, this is my last project, I'm done. And then Nicole's 45 minutes late to pick me up at the airport, which you can imagine is a little bit disconcerting in that country, because I'm standing on the street with these 4 huge suitcases, and like 25 men surrounding me, trying to get money from me, take my suitcases. And Nicole pulls up 45 minutes late, yelling. How many of you remember Nicole? So she's like, I'm here! So this is the car that Dave was shot in, and she's still driving that car, and it doesn't run. It only goes 25 miles an hour. They replaced the engine, it just doesn't work. So anyway, that might be our next project, I don't know. This is just a picture of traffic in Port-au-Prince. It's a crazy zoo. I mean, that's what it looks like to sit in traffic. It's nuts. Okay, next picture. So I was going to share with you about the 4 kids that you guys support, because there's 30 kids in the orphanage. It would take me all day to share about all of them, but I'll just talk to you about your kids. So this is Doodley, and he is the coolest kid. He's one of 9 kids in the orphanage that speaks pretty fluent English. He's very funny, very comical. He's got a big heart. He's like always aware of what's going on with everybody. I took him out on the street and bought him a Coke. And I thought he would drink it all himself, but we came back to the orphanage and he didn't drink any of that Coke. He gave all of the kids drinks. I know, he's a really precious, really, really sweet boy. Okay. Luke Mata is the boy standing in the back. So he is Eddie's brother. So these kids, that's Raynette, Luke Mata, and Eddie, and then that's their mother. So these 3 children actually saw their father shot to death. And after he died, their mom couldn't send them to school anymore and couldn't feed them anymore, and so Nicole offered to take them in. So the kids have been living with Nicole in the orphanage now for 3 years, I think, 2.5 years. And so she had come to visit Eddie after surgery. But Luke Mata is one of the kids that you guys support, and so he is, he's a quiet boy. He's very kind of introverted. I think he's seen a lot of really hard stuff in his life, and he sort of sees him as the caretaker of his siblings now. So he's very conscious to make sure that his siblings are taken care of. He would always make sure Eddie's bed was right and Eddie's clothes were changed. And you know, as soon as we got back from the hospital, he rushed right over to him to make sure he was okay. But I think he's got a lot of stuff going on inside. I wasn't really able to explore all of it because his English is very limited and my Creole is very limited, but you could pray for him, you know, that God just, I wouldn't say that he's angry, but he's very quiet and he's very contemplative about everything, and he's got a heavy heart. So you could pray for him definitely about that. But he's a good boy. This is Celine. She was a little bitty girl when you guys first started supporting her, and she's a big girl now. Super, super sweet girl. She spent a lot of time with me, just right at my hip, just, what are you doing? She wanted to know everything. She wanted to fix my hair every day. She polished my nails. It was tragic, but I let her do it. Super sweet girl. So here's the deal with women in Haiti. They are not, the culture does not encourage women to be pure or to be respected. You're more like a commodity than you are anything in that country. And so that's what these girls struggle with, because right outside the orphanage walls is just all the chaos of life and men and just it's not an incredibly healthy environment for girls. And so I see some of these older girls grappling with how they're going to deal with their lives and the culture and what the culture expects of them, and trying to align that with what God expects of them, and it's hard for them. And so you can definitely pray for Celine that her heart will stay pure and innocent, and that God will protect her in that way. So I had a couple pictures of Obenson, but this is Obenson here. And you guys remember Nixon? Do you guys remember Nixon? So we'll talk about Nixon in a second. Obenson was also a little bitty kid when you guys started supporting him. He is a big boy now. Look at that muscle on his arm. He is the coolest kid though. He also is struggling with following Christ and the culture, and you know, because there's a lot of voodoo, there's a lot of really bad stuff, and so you know, there are kids outside of the orphanage that are pulling him to come and participate with them, and you know, some of them had given him a phone that he wasn't supposed to have, and so you know, we just need to pray for those kids that God protects them from those influences. But Obenson is a really good kid, and he really loves Nixon. So Nixon, this little boy's name is Lukeson, and I kept thinking his name was Nixon for some reason, and then he was like, my name's not Nixon. Anyway, Nixon, you guys remember Nixon. He finished officially a doctor now. So the rubber meets the road now in that he's got to find a job, and there is not much work because of the political climate in that company, in that country. I will say, I know I need to go faster. I will say, I think God put something really amazing together. On my flight from New York to Port-au-Prince, I was exhausted because I had just worked 4 10-hour shifts. I'd been up for like 48 hours. I was fried. But I sat next to this man on the plane. I did not have any intention of talking to him. But I ended up talking to him, and he is a psychologist who, like 30 years ago, started traveling to Haiti with his wife, and they saw the need for a pediatric clinic on the southern coast of Haiti. And so he and his wife took their life savings and started this clinic, and they've run this clinic ever since. And they employ Haitian doctors, particularly doctors who want to become pediatricians, because you have to go through another residency to become a pediatrician. Nixon is just a family practice doctor now. So he really wants to become a pediatrician. That's been his goal the whole time. So I started talking to this man about Nixon, and he was like, oh, we'll have a job in June, so you should, have him come meet me. So I sent Nixon down there to meet him. He spent 2 days with this doctor. It's a good possibility that might work out as a job for him. And they would also pay for him to finish his residency, that second part of his residency, to become a pediatrician. So pray that God moves in the hearts of those people. They're making decisions right now about who they're going to hire, and it is extremely competitive. So just pray that God gives him favor. Mary Lou, this little lady is amazing. I have 2 pictures of her in here. You can. The children all have to help in some way every day, participate in the preparation of food and the cleaning of the house and that sort of stuff. But this woman makes 140 meals a day, 7 days a week. And she's been at the orphanage since they moved into this house, so for 2.5 years. You can go to the next one. So there she is with her one meal's worth of rice, which I have to comment, these kids eat 3 meals a day in this orphanage, and very few kids in that country get 3 meals a day. Very few. The food is pretty boring, to be honest. It's rice and beans and like some fish sauce. Sometimes they'll have some eggs for dinner or a piece of bread, but it's not exciting. But they eat 3 meals a day, which is just a really big deal. Anyway, she is a great lady. And so this is just a picture of all the kids. There's a picture up here also that you can take home. But those are the 30 kids that are in the orphanage. And those other 2 couples that were there were a couple of couples that came to help Nicole during this period of time. Yeah. And so I think the last slide is just a video. Is that where we're at?
Yes.
Okay. So
I'm not sure if you'll play that by now.
there it is, yeah. And so I think you just go into play. While he's figuring that out, I'll tell you about it. So the kids are living in a house in Quadabuque. Before Dave was killed, they had purchased a piece of property and poured a foundation and were building an actual new building for the kids, which they really need. Nicole still owns the land. The problem is the pastor that had something to do with Dave's death, his name is still on the property. It's complicated. Haiti is a big fat mess as far as that goes. But they can't move forward with finishing the building on this property until they get that man's name off of the deed, basically. It's Nicole's name and that man's name now. And so that's something you can definitely pray for, is that man's name would be taken off. He's in prison now. It's a very sad situation, but these kids need to be living here. They need to be living on this 2-acre piece of property. It's beautiful. It's got 10-foot high cement walls with razor wire at the top. There's 12 mango trees and like 125 plantain trees. These kids need to be living there, so we need to pray that this will happen. They won't play.
Jennifer, I understand as long as this man's name is on this deed, Nicole's life is in danger. Is that right?
Well, to some extent, yeah. I mean, I think, yeah. I think so. What the story behind that was when they bought the property. That country is extremely corrupt, and everyone will lie to you. It's almost impossible to get the truth out of anybody. When they bought the property, they were told that if you didn't have citizenship, you had to have a Haitian citizen's name on the property as well. So they put this pastor's name. Well, the pastor, I mean, I think he was corrupt anyway, but he fell out of a tap-tap, the back end of a taxi, basically, and got a head injury, and he's just not right. And so he got it in his head that if he had Dave killed, he would own that property. And so he is basically in prison for all of that now, but his name is still on the property, so his name needs to be taken off. I wish you guys could see this video. It's precious. All the kids are singing and dancing, but you guys can pray for Nicole because her job is insurmountable at times. I don't know how she does what she does, but she could use your prayers every day. Pray for their financial situation. Pray for peace for her in her decisions and for wisdom for her. Okay, any questions? No questions? Okay, the end.
Me, first, I just heard it was a random occurrence. You walk out of the bank and.
That's what we thought in the beginning.
How did you even get it investigated? I mean, with such a corrupt country, how did they?
So the story of that is, originally we thought it was just a robbery. It was set up to look like a robbery. But when Nicole went to Port-au-Prince for Dave's memorial service, Richard, who still works with her in the orphanage, who had been Dave's right-hand man, basically in the 5 weeks between Dave dying and Nicole going back to Port-au-Prince, this pastor whose name was now on the property had Richard come, and he was like, okay, we're going to continue this whole project, and you'll still be the director of the project. And I mean, this guy was like delusional. He just thought that he was going to move on, and all these people were still going to help him, and everything was still going to be all in his favor. And so Richard was very wise. This in the Haitian culture, a Haitian person would never side with an American against a Haitian person. It's just culturally it's not something that would happen. So this man never felt like he needed to decide, is Richard on my side or not? He just assumed culturally that Richard would just pick up with him and move forward because this is what we do. We kill people and we get what we want. And so Richard, I think just in the Holy Spirit leading him, started recording this conversation, and this man basically confessed to everything. And so when Nicole came back, Richard said, this is what we've learned. And so that's kind of where it went from there. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, in reference to this guy's name on the deed, would it be naive to think there isn't a law firm in Haiti or the U.S. that can get things done? In all that chaos, it seems like that might lead to someone to have some opportunity to actually get action taken care of.
So when Brett was there last time, that was their whole project. Their whole project was following through with the whole legal process and getting that fixed. And when Brett left, we thought it was fixed. We thought Nicole's name was the only name on the deed. That's what they told her. But someone took money to the judge, and the judge left that man's name on the deed. It is a very difficult country to work in. It's nothing like our country. It is so incredibly corrupt. I'll just explain to you. Nicole's church in Columbus, they put together a container with dressers for every kid, sheets for every bed for all the kids. I mean, it was a large container. They shipped it over. It took them 6 months to unload it, and they charged them $15,000 in bribes to unload the container, and then they had stolen half of the stuff out of it. I mean, accomplishing anything in that country without the absolute hand of God it's next to impossible. It's really hard. Oh yeah, Nicole's whole budget. It's funny if you talk to her about her budget. She's got a budget for bribes. You've got to pay everybody. You've got to bribe everybody to get anything. It's just the culture. Yeah, but I was gonna tell you. Kevin asked, or I can't remember her name. Julie, that's right. I wanted to call you Jennifer. Julie asked me if I had a hard time leaving the kids. Well, I thought that I would have a hard time. I thought that there's no way I'm going to go and spend this week with this little boy that I already love so much and have this surgery and leave him there and just, it's going to kill me. But as I went through the week and I experienced the kids and I experienced the orphanage and I experienced the work that God is doing and Nicole's tenacity and how much these kids have come together and become a family and they love each other, I really had to contemplate, is this just a selfish thing on my part that I want to bring this kid here and, you know, Americanize him and make him, like I was telling her, a consumer of all, you know, just make him the American mentality consumer and make him do all of the things that we do, because in my mind that would make me feel better about him. And I felt like God really gave me a lot of peace because I was able to see that this kid is loved. He is in school. He gets 3 meals a day. He gets a shower every day. He sleeps in a bed. He has a little dresser with his own clothes in it, which no kid has that in Haiti. I mean, these kids are extremely well taken care of, and every dime that you guys send is utilized to the nth degree. So you should feel just really, really good about what you're doing, because it's making a huge, very huge firsthand difference. There's no middleman taking your money and doing something with it. It's going straight to those kids. So I felt good about leaving them there. Okay.
How long can the kids stay at the orphanage? Do they have to leave when they're 18, or can they stay there? And
No,
help pick up
technically, the law is in Haiti that they cannot stay in the orphanage past the age of 18. When they turn 18, they have to either leave or work there. And so there is one boy who is now 19, and he is actually employed by the orphanage now. But the long-term goal would be to develop some kind of trade school or something that these kids could transition into, so that then they have a trade. And it would be something that they could learn to do, that the orphanage could make some money off of, so it would make the orphanage more self-sustained. I mean, that's what we spend a lot of time talking about, is how can we get this orphanage to the point where it's a whole cycle of it's self-sustained and we don't have to fundraise all the time to feed these kids, because like it is hard to raise $8,000 to $10,000 a month to cover all the bills. So that would be the long-term goal, to see them transition into some kind of trade that they could learn in the orphanage that would bring some income to the orphanage, and they would also get a trade and have a job.
You said that there's 2 acres. What's the agricultural like there that they can farm and raise
Agriculture is
chickens and
difficult.
things?
The history of Haiti is that the French came in and basically just destroyed the land, cut down all the trees. If you look at that island on a map, you'll see that the Dominican Republic side is very lush and green, and the Haitian side is just desert, disgusting, just destroyed. But I really believe a lot of that is spiritual, in that they essentially made a pact with the devil, and basically gave them their country. And so I think they're reaping a lot of what they've sown spiritually. And I think that a lot of that is seen in the agricultural aspect of things, and that it's very difficult to grow things. But on the land, we could have chickens, we could have goats, we could have a garden, those plantain trees and the mango trees. I mean, there's a lot of options in that tiny little place. But agriculturally, there's nothing significant in Haiti in general. It's just been destroyed.
Jennifer, what's it require for Nicole to get a car that works for her? Does one have to purchase there, or
So that's a
send
long
from
story
here?
too. I know. I was kind of judgmental of Nicole because she was like, I need a brand new car. And I was like, well, that's bullcrap. You don't need a brand new car. And so, I kind of was like, really? And so I love Nicole because she's really patient with me, and she just explains it to me, and she's like, okay, this is why. So this is the deal. She really does need a new car because mechanics are all corrupt. We tried to replace the engine in the car that she has. They charged her 5 times what the engine cost, and it was a piece of crap engine, and the car only goes 25 miles an hour. So she needs a new car that doesn't require a mechanic. What happens with that? There are 2 options. They have what's called a people hauler on the property, and they could replace the engine and do some work on that, but it's finding a good mechanic to do it. It's just almost impossible. So the other option is to buy a new car. The problem with this country is that you can't just go buy a new car. when you buy a new car or you buy any car at all, to own a vehicle, you have to pay a 60% tax on that vehicle. 60%. It's terrible. So we talked about buying a car here and shipping it over, but you'd be looking at the 6 months, all the bribes, who knows what it's gonna take to get it unloaded, who knows if you're ever gonna get it, and then you have to pay 60% on the blue book. So the best option would be, and I'm praying about this, I don't know what my role is in this, but to fundraise, to go over there and buy her a new car in Haiti and pay the 60% tax and just call it good. It's the only way.
So if she got a new car, she couldn't haul all these kids around. If the people hauler was 6, could she haul all these kids?
Yes.
Maybe we need to send a mechanic.
Yeah.
And an engine. I don't know how
Could you
you
buy
do
an
that.
engine there?
It's very difficult. I mean, we could if we had a mechanic, I could make a trip with a mechanic and we could look at it and decide what we need and figure it out from there. It's a possibility. But we need somebody who's honest, because there's nobody who's honest. Even the guy who was Dave's friend that we thought was honest sold us a crappy engine.
Well, it seems like it's impressive for her to have to use the car. doesn't
Well,
it?
I mean, I didn't even get a good picture, but the whole other side of the car is full of bullet holes. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. Okay.